Hello, I'm Sophia Melnychuk. I'm excited to explore with you ancient Greek music. Before I start, I want to note that there are many different music systems around the world, but I will be focusing on the ancient Greek music system and the doctrine of ethos, and its effect in creating a foundation for the modern day Western music system. Music was an integral part of ancient Greek life. Music, both instrumental and vocal hymns, were a part of everyday activities. Shepherds played pipes to flocks. Music was used formally in worship and religion. And many Pythagoreans and followers of the cult of Orpheus used music therapy as medicinal treatment daily. As military was a significant part of ancient Greece, as also was music used to help keep infantry in time, as depicted in the left vase, where a kithra is played for foot soldiers and horsemen. Most Greek men were trained to play an instrument to some degree, but women were also given opportunities to learn and play music in their homes. Both images on the right are of female musicians. The right lower image depicts a woman whom some believe to be Sappho playing a lyre for other women, which softens the barriers of the cult of domesticity. When we learn about ancient Greek music, we aren't just learning about music, but we are learning about the everyday life of these individuals, their religion, their philosophies, their views on math and politics. Music deeply affected many parts of ancient Greek life. By looking at vases and the physical remains of musical instruments, archaeologists have found a wide array of different instruments. It appears as though there are three particularly notable instruments for both performing and composition. The kithra, depicted on the right, and the lyre, depicted on the upper left, are stringed instruments. The aulos is a double reed wind instrument, and fragments of an aulos from an archaeology expedition in 1921 by Harvard is shown on the lower left. The kithra was also often used in recitations of epic poetry. The ancient Greeks believed music shaped a person's character. It was seen as a vehicle for carrying ethical and moral attitudes. Playing the aulos was believed to affect your moral character negatively, and many who played the aulos were seen as degenerate, whereas playing the kithra was believed to positively affect your ethos and improve your moral character. This idea is called the Greek ethos theory, or the doctrine of ethos. In order to understand its genesis a bit more, we're going to briefly look at how ancient Greek music has impacted math. The ancient Greeks used music to study mathematics. A great example of this is the idea of intervals. Playing a string in the middle of the kithra, as seen on the left, gives you an octave. The instruments were designed in terms of intervals. They used the Pythagorean tuning system, which means the intervals of sounds were split differently than what we now have in the Western music system. It was based on harmonies and perfect fifths, which limited the key signatures that ancient Greeks used and vastly changed the sound of the music from what we typically are used to in the Western music system. Plato and Aristotle and Pythagoreans, as they were called, used the basis of Pythagorean mathematics to substantiate the claim of a moral force driving the ethos theory. This is seen in the 7 species and in the rhythms they developed. They developed species and modes as part of the system, which set the stage for the mode system that still influences our Western music system. I'm going to play for you 3 of these modes. For example, most of you or many of you might have experienced the C major scale, which by ancient Greeks was called the Ionian mode. This is the Phrygian mode. Lastly, this is the Dorian mode. This last mode was developed by the ancient Greeks to be a more stately, severe species, almost warlike, while still being balanced. In fact, Plato in the Republic and Aristotle in Politics praise it as being what is called the national mode. This mode was considered most suited for the perfect citizen. Musical sounds affected the philosophical and political zeitgeist of the time. Now, the use of rhythms to incite and evoke certain emotions and behaviors also became an important marker of music. Today, we often think of fast, upbeat, exciting music that might energize us versus slow tempo, legato music that might relax us. Well, this idea that musicians have used since ancient Greece of how music affects us is summarized well in this quote by Aristotle in Politics. The original Greek is on the slide. Each of the modes affects the soul in a peculiar way. The Mixolydian makes men sad and grave, the relaxed harmonies slacken and weaken. The Dorian compose and strengthen the mind, the Phrygian mode inspires passion. Rhythms too have a character, some of rest, others of motion, and of the latter some have a more vulgar, others a nobler movement. From these considerations, therefore, it is plain that music has the power of producing a certain effect on the moral character of the soul. They also approached this doctrine of ethos through pitch. So in language and studying the ancient Greek language, you might be familiar with the acute and grave accents. Well, these terms along with medium also denoted pitches, which the ancient Greeks again applied their semiotic perspective of observation to in order to substantiate the ethos system. Ptolemaeus said the same melody has an active effect in the acute scale and a depressive one in the grave scale, because a high sound stimulates the soul while a low sound weakens it. They are connecting observations around music to something deeper. This concept would even end up being used in the US's Revolutionary War, as music was developed specifically to cultivate a revolutionary spirit. This image is of Bostonian psalm singers during the war. Similar to how Aristotle and Plato viewed the Dorian mode as the national mode, much of America during this time believed in a specific civilized music that would reinforce the idea of an ideal citizenry and contribute to a unified revolutionary belief system. In the manual of the Boston Academy of Music, it purports that the listener is not just passively enjoying music, but is feeling the emotions on a deeper sensory level. Our Western scale systems and modes are rooted in ancient Greek music systems, and the idea that music can affect behavior and feeling has greatly impacted music today. While playing woodwind music won't make you an evil person, as many ancient Greeks surmised, there is evidence that it can affect your feelings. On the left is a mosaic of Orpheus, who, according to the majority of Greek mythologies, was taught the lyre by Apollo and used it to affect nature. On the right, we see jazz and bossa nova song labels named after Orpheus, which points to this transculturation and how many musicians are knowledgeable of ancient Greek music and have allowed it to cross genres, geography, and affect music today. Many composers around the world work with dynamics to make songs evoke certain feelings. Appoggiaturas today create tension and resolves that are ornamental, largely non-harmonic notes that allow for this feeling. This idea of feeling affecting the form has a foundation in ancient Greek music and philosophy. Thank you.